session. We're almost there, my friends. Okay. How are we doing today? We're live. Welcome back to another live session. We're going to talk all about NAD precursors. We're going to talk about NR and NMN. We'll talk about why these dietary supplements might be useful for certain clinical situations and dietary strategies to increase cellular NAD. We'll define what NAD is, and I want to share with you a few articles that I found to be incredibly illuminating on this topic. The most important of which is this one right here. NAD metabolism, pathophysiology, and mechanisms and therapeutic targets. This was a really good overview. If you are curious about what NAD is, if you should be considering NMN or NR related supplements or other dietary strategies to optimize one of the most important intracellular coenzymes. That's what NAD is. And that's what these dietary supplements that are purported to enhance longevity and cellular regeneration and activate autophagy are geared towards activating or priming is a nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, which is NAD. And this is a really critically important intracellular process or pathway that is a cofactor involved in all aspects of metabolism, including glutathione and antioxidant related metabolism, as you can see here. So a lot of different things that we're going to dive into today. Now, why do people care so much about this? Actually, before I get into that, let's just talk about, why we're even diving into this today, my friends. And as always, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like button. Let me know in the comment section where you are from, and any questions during these live sessions are fair game. If you have a question about backyard chickens, cold plunges, sauna, you name it, the whole point of these live sessions is to engage and talk and hang out and have a little bit of fun here, talk science. So a family member just texted this to me on Sunday. This is an individual who is in his 60s, trying to optimize health like all of us, trying to lose a little bit of that belly fat, maintain muscle, prevent prediabetes and diabetes. And he says, hey, Mike, what are your thoughts on NMN? And I said, look, good morning. It's a very popular dietary supplement, very expensive, but I think for the money, there are other ways to achieve the same intracellular mechanisms. And that was my response to him. So I recommended berberine hydrochloride because I happen to know his history with regards to metabolic health. And we know that omega-3 fats are another important dietary foundation. And throughout today's conversation, I want to share with you a little bit about some of the human clinical studies that have been conducted with regards to NMN and NR. And we'll talk about what this is. So who should really care about optimizing NAD-related precursors? What I want to do is just share with you this image again here. There's a lot of hot targets. People are talking about rapamycin for optimizing longevity. Metformin. You just heard a little bit about berberine. There is spermidine, resveratrol. And I would just say, I've been in this space since 2006. And I was one of the biggest advocates of resveratrol. When David Sinclair over at Harvard talked about resveratrol early on, a friend of mine at the time, Mark Houston, a medical doctor out of Nashville, Tennessee, was really big on resveratrol. And I got hooked on resveratrol. I probably spent $4,000 to $5,000 over the next 4 to 5 years on resveratrol. I can't tell you if it did anything to my body, but I was certainly a believer in this. Maybe some of the benefits were achieved via placebo effects. I'm not really sure, but I'm a big fan of optimizing longevity. Now, I'm also a fan of nutrition. So before we get into NMN specifically and NR, let's talk about spermidine. Spermidine supplements are really hot right now. Now, the best way to optimize spermidine levels is to start eating mushrooms in your diet. Pretty much every single night, I oscillate between oyster mushrooms and shiitake mushrooms. I think mushrooms should be a huge part of your diet, which is why I told my family member, start cooking with mushrooms, because spermidine is also indirectly affects NAD levels. And this is far cheaper than buying these expensive NMN and NR related supplements that are selling for $60, $70 plus per month. So I told my family member, start cooking with mushrooms before you take any supplements. Mushrooms are not a plant. They're not quite an animal. They are in their own phyla, and they have a lot of health benefits. So if you want to start optimizing the purported health benefits linked with NAD precursors, start with mushrooms. Also start with exercise. Look, if you're not exercising, you have no business spending $60, $70 a month on NR and NMN related supplements. I mean, one of the best ways to optimize intracellular NAD is to start exercising. Really important there. Now, let's talk about what these compounds are really doing. So if you say you're like, you know what, I want to dabble with NR or NMN. Now, this is one of the most important intracellular coenzymes involved in all of metabolic health and science. And it is most important. The people that should really care mostly about maybe optimizing NAD precursors are folks who have had a history of DNA-related damage due to their occupation, or if you live near a freeway, so you're exposed to the PM 2.5 particulate from diesel fume exhaust. Maybe you have mercury amalgams that you haven't yet got extracted from your teeth, or you're a current or former smoker, including cannabis or tobacco products. Because what happens is the way that you drain your NAD pool is through DNA damage. Okay, the repair enzymes, the sirtuin enzymes, the PARP enzymes, all the enzymes that are involved in eating up your cellular NAD are really, that NAD pool is really depleted by repairing DNA and by oxidative or free radical stress. So if you have a history of, say, eating ultra-processed foods, you smoke, you used to smoke, you're around secondhand smoke, or you live right near a freeway, okay, you are a candidate for potentially optimizing NAD levels and possibly considering NAD supplements. But I would wager that there are other strategies that are much more cost-effective to achieve that same aim. Because what we're trying to do with NAD-related supplements and NAD precursors, NR and NMN, is to optimize metabolic health, optimize autophagy, improve and support metabolic health. And dollar for dollar, I don't think there are better tools than berberine hydrochloride and myo-inositol and possibly metformin. Those three tools, you could take all of those together, which, by the way, have a large dossier of research. Berberine hydrochloride has been used for 3,000 years. Metformin has been used since the 1700s, and myo-inositol has a huge body of literature supporting its health benefits for metabolic health. So if you're trying to optimize cellular health, metabolic health, redox status, and that's where I would suggest investing your money in first, because you could do all three of those things for the same cost that you might pay for an expensive NR or NMN supplement. Okay. So just a small quick plug, at Myoscience, we offer all sorts of solutions. And one of the solutions we offer is the berberine hydrochloride. This is the berberine fasting accelerator that has been helpful for curbing appetite food cravings. So this is just one of many tools. You have all kinds of tools that are available. It's really affordable. And if you struggle with ice cream, cookies, crackers, sweets in the evening time, you can take 2 to 3 capsules with your last meal. And this will help curb some of those cravings in addition to other things, which is why I'm not such a big fan of diving right in to the expensive NAD supplements, because, if you start taking them and you test your ketones or you test your glucose, are they really doing much of anything? I've experimented with this and I didn't notice any changes. But if you take those tools that I mentioned, metformin, berberine, or myo-inositol, you can see really quickly that these things are working. And that's why I'm a big fan of using biofeedback tools, objective testing. Optimizing your omega-3 index level is a great way to support cardiovascular health. For example, you can test this. It's very affordable, okay? So the people who are candidates potentially for considering NAD supplements would be folks, again, that have a history of DNA-related damage, an occupation that involved exposure to lead, arsenic, cadmium, mercury, diesel fume exhaust, hairdressers, people who work in aluminum smelter plants, for example, current and former smokers. Because what happens when you have DNA damage is your pool of NAD starts to diminish and decline. And that can accelerate the unraveling, so to speak, of your epigenome. And that's what's really important. If you think about your cells and your DNA as hardware, the software that is controlling which genes are being turned off, whether we're turning on a tumor suppressor protein or turning on a pro-growth protein, the epigenome is coordinating those metabolic and epigenetic and genetic responses. And as you get older, your epigenome starts to change. And it turns out that NAD is a primary coenzyme for helping the sirtuin enzymes maintain the integrity of your epigenome, which is why NAD supplements are so popular in the context of longevity, because you start to get some unraveling, some fraying, if you will, of your epigenome, epigenetic drift. So as you get exposure to DNA damage from heavy metals, from poor diet, from oxidative stress, from eating processed foods, having blood sugar levels that bounce all around, we know that people that are diabetic, pre-diabetic, insulin resistant have a lot of free radical or oxidative stress. And so, the other thing that we can just start to think about is focusing on intermittent fasting as a strategy. A ketogenic diet is one of the best ways to optimize cellular NAD levels. And here's a great book. If you haven't, hopefully you can see this. It's called The Fourth Fuel. And this is by Travis Christofferson. And this goes into NAD metabolism as it relates to ketogenic and carbohydrate metabolism in much greater detail. And various animal model studies, which, by the way, most of the research on the NR and NMN related supplements have been conducted in mice. Now, there have been a few clinical trials in humans. This was one clinical trial in humans. This was pre-diabetic women that found that NMN at doses of 150 milligrams, I believe twice per day, was effective at restoring insulin sensitivity at the level of the skeletal muscle. However, it's important to acknowledge that there are many tools that can restore insulin sensitivity. Just simply walking after meals, going to bed on time, not eating a lot of hyperpalatable processed foods. You could take berberine, you could take metformin, you could take rapamycin. All these tools can also support metabolic health as well. Okay, so it's not the only way to go about this. And so that's why, as I get back to how we started here, a family member said, should I consider NR or NMN? My first suggestion would be, for the same price, you could get a few different products or raw materials, ingredients, natural compounds that support metabolic health that you can tangibly measure objectively and find that they are working very quickly. Myo-inositol comes to mind, berberine hydrochloride comes to mind, high quality omega-3 fats, especially if you don't eat fish or if you've been a vegan for a long time. Also, we can consider creatine. There's a lot of different things that we can dive into. But before I get to your questions, I do just want to share with you this. Gut health, it appears, is really important. So if you're not having fermented foods, and I know these are a little bit controversial, people are like, why do I need to ferment foods? I'm going zero carb, carnivore, all that. Fermented foods might be yet another way, another tool to optimize NAD precursor levels. And so it turns out that the NAD precursors here, they sort of oscillate between cells as well as the gut microbiome. So gut health, digestion, eating within a circadian aligned window, not going to bed right after eating a major meal, walking after meals, improving digestion, having apple cider vinegar, all these things might be helpful for optimizing tissue levels of these critically important metabolites that help repair the integrity of your epigenome and your genome. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. We also know that supporting glutathione with N-acetylcysteine and possibly glycine, these are the rate-limiting amino acids that make up your body's most important intracellular antioxidant and detoxification molecule known as glutathione. And NAD is critically involved in glutathione metabolism. And it turns out that if you have low glutathione levels, then you might have low NAD levels. And so you can kind of see here how NAD is involved in the synthesis and maintenance of healthy glutathione levels. And so another tool that you could consider would be N-acetylcysteine glycine. Again, this is going to be far cheaper than jumping right into NR and NMN. That's not to say that there couldn't be potential benefits from taking these compounds. NMN has been shown to improve insulin sensitivity, possibly increasing autophagy. But a more cost-effective way to improve autophagy would be simply exercising. We know exercise is one of the best ways to improve autophagy, at least in the liver and skeletal muscle. Okay, so what I want to do is get to some live questions. And again, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like button. Thank you for being here on a Tuesday afternoon. I would like to see what some folks are saying in the chat. Okay. We have some new folks tuning in live. We have Corrine, thank you for being here. Rambler, thank you for being here. Yeah, great question here from EJ. What about just taking niacin? Niacin has been shown to be effective, and niacin is dirt cheap. I think that's a reasonable place to start. The problem with niacin is you get a little bit of a flushing effect, but it does increase HDL cholesterol. People who are so-called statin resistant, meaning they take a statin and have rhabdomyolysis and issues like that, most doctors will pivot them onto a niacin product. And niacin is a precursor for NAD's biosynthesis, nicotinic acid. That's the name, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, NAD. The nicotine part of it comes from nicotinic acid or niacin. So yeah, I think taking niacin is probably a much more cost-effective way to go. Okay, can you take plant protein with lupus? I don't see why you couldn't eat, say, a pea protein or other such protein if you have lupus. Yeah, good question. Swamp Hawk says, I just filled up my cold plunge today. Love it. Thank you for that. All right. Synthesized Neil says, hey, Mike, what do you think about eating potato starch to feed your gut? Yeah, even better, just peel the skins off potatoes and just cook the potatoes. I think that's probably a better strategy. Great question. Okay. Okay. Hey, Mike, I used to have very cold fingers in the winter. Took NAD, completely cured this. Don't wear gloves now. Been taking it the last 4 years. Wow, that's pretty impressive. So it sounds like Steve 1711 took NAD and it improved his microcirculation, which is quite interesting. All right. Swamp Hawk says, spermidine is ultra expensive. Only the rich can afford it. Yeah, that's why I suggest, again, eating mushrooms. Spermidine is highly concentrated in mushrooms. Just start buying some mushrooms. Go forage wild mushrooms. There's all sorts of guides and books that will help you do that. And you'll save yourself some money and possibly improve your immune health as a side benefit. Okay. I'm interested in learning more about NMN and brain function. Both my parents started taking it a few months ago for that purpose. It's super expensive, so hopefully they're not wasting their money. Yeah, it is super expensive. And so that's, again, these are my recommendations, my cost-effective recommendations. For less than what you would spend on NAD, tell your parents to get some berberine, some omega-3 fats, and start cooking with mushrooms. I would wager this would perform better clinically and you would see some of the benefits quicker with regards to metabolic health, as opposed to breaking the bank on NAD and NMN supplements. Okay. We have some folks from Montana. Tom, thanks for being here. Okay. All right. I read about berberine lengthening the QT interval. Is that something I should worry about? Berberine has interesting effects when it comes to heart health. There was a recently published study that we reviewed about 2 months ago that found that berberine may, in fact, reverse atherosclerotic plaque in the coronary arteries. Again, we can't talk about treating, preventing, or curing, or diagnosing any conditions here. We're talking about supporting metabolic health, but it appears that berberine does have some cardioprotective effects. So I would not worry about potential QT interval stuff. Haven't seen much of that quite recently. Certain mushrooms also contain vitamin D2, ergocalciferol, of which you can never consume too much compared with vitamin D supplements. Yes. Great comment on the benefits of mushrooms. Love that. Does the bovine extract on your site have the potential to lower your own testosterone production? Yeah, it's a good question. So there is no active testosterone in that product. This is a testicular, this comment is directed about the Morning Wood product. The report from people who take it does not suggest that it lowers testosterone. It helps, again, with supporting male health. You can see some of the reviews there. A lot of good reviews there. Great question. Brad says welders. Yeah, so welders and people that work in aluminum smelter plants and things like that might be exposed to heavy metals, lead, cadmium, aluminum, things like that. And so they could deplete glutathione and possibly damage DNA. So these are folks that should consider or prioritize NAD precursor optimization through exercise, diet, fasting, and possibly other tools. So yeah, good point there. Thank you for that. All right. We have a comment from someone who's been taking NAD. Where is this comment here? Okay, hold on here. Oh, okay. Gosh, where did it go? Did that comment get deleted? Someone was taking NAD for 2 years. I can't seem to find the comment here. Shoot, I'm sorry, guys. Okay, I've seen NAD's IVs, and they help energy and mind. This is Intuitive Sean says that. That's cool. Hey, do what works. If you like IVs, do IVs. It's all good. Okay. A woman says, I take niacin in my vegan supplement, no flush, good mood enhancer. Yeah, niacin has been used for a long time in psychiatric care and all that. So yeah, great question. Okay. Let's see. We have another one from Corrine talking about cinnamon. She was getting some cinnamon from Costco and so forth. Interesting stuff here. Okay. All right, here's the Moonstruck is the URL handle. I've been taking NMN for 1.5 years and noticed a huge difference in my energy levels within about 3 months. It works out to about $10 a month when I buy bulk powder. Interesting. So I would love to know, are you buying it from bulk supplements? That'd be interesting. Danger Zone is saying NR helps my sleep. I will just add, small plug for Myoscience, taking berberine has been shown to help a lot of customers with their sleep, I would just say. So many ways to optimize sleep. Sleep is very complex. Some people need theanine, some people need magnesium, time-restricted feeding, exercise, being off screens, all that is interesting. Okay. All right. Solo Earthy says CD38 suppression is a factor in boosting NAD levels. Yeah. So there are various inflammatory signaling molecules and receptors that, when activated, they can deplete the NAD pool. And so that could be a factor there. So, of course, decreasing chronic inflammation by way of exercise, eating more real food, optimizing sleep is going to be very helpful. So, yeah, great point there. Okay, CC says, I take NAC. How does that amino acid differ from NAD? Yeah, they're totally different. I know the acronyms are quite similar. NAC stands for N-acetylcysteine. This is the rate-limiting amino acid precursor for the formation of glutathione, not to be confused with nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, or NAD. NAD is a coenzyme that's critically important for the function and maintenance of DNA repair and homeostasis, as well as the most important coenzyme involved in energy metabolism. And so, yeah, these sound similar, they look similar, but completely different functioning molecules. However, at the level of the cellular biochemistry, there is some overlap, as we can see in this image here, because it turns out that both NAD helps with glutathione homeostasis and balance. And so if you have a lot of free radical or oxidative stress, then it turns out that your NAD pool would be depleted because your body's trying to make intracellular glutathione. And of course, NAD is involved in that biosynthesis. And a more affordable way to support glutathione health, in my estimation, is taking the precursors N-acetylcysteine and glycine together, really cost-effective way to support glutathione health. So what do I think of an NAD IV? I don't know, maybe if you have acute COVID or long COVID, or you're feeling sick or something acutely, I wouldn't probably recommend that all the time, but it could be worthwhile, and so that's a good question. Okay, Intuitive Sean says, I'm already doing berberine and omega-3s and mushrooms. Okay, Sean, thank you for that. You are intuitive per your YouTube URL handle, so thank you for that. All right, Carrie says, what do you think of benfotiamine? So this is the fat-soluble form of B1 or thiamine for improving insulin sensitivity in conjunction with berberine. Yeah, so benfotiamine is not really going to directly support glucose homeostasis or blood sugar health. It may be helpful in the context of neuropathy or retinopathy if people have insulin resistance. And so that's a point there. It could help with preventing nerve damage if you already have diabetes or prediabetes. Okay, great question on what's my take on coenzyme Q10. I think CoQ10 is cool. If you don't ever eat beef heart or lamb heart or chicken hearts, I don't know if you all know this, but coenzyme Q10 is now fermented, and that's how it's made into supplements, but it used to be derived from beef heart. So if you don't need organs, then possibly periodically supplement with CoQ10. I do think it's important, especially if you've taken a statin before, or even red yeast rice. Consider CoQ10. Okay. NAC and glycine are recommended as taken together. Yeah, so these are the two rate-limiting amino acids of glutathione, and hopefully that's conveyed right here a little bit. You have on the very top of the screen, you have glutathione, you have cysteine, you have glutamine. So these are the rate limiting amino acids to make glutathione. So NAC should be paired with glycine. In the description below, you can check out some reviews on some products that might be helpful for that. Okay, Mike, what are your thoughts on the evidential basis for the benefits of resveratrol? Yeah, like I said, when we started out, maybe you weren't here. I was a big fan of resveratrol back in the day. I spent a lot of money on resveratrol supplements. I was convincing my friends and family to buy resveratrol. I was a big fan of it. I didn't notice any differences either way when I take it. And that's why, when family members text me now, berberine, you take berberine, you can feel it right away. You can test your ketones go up, you can test your blood glucose and see the changes right away. So I'm a bigger fan of taking things that you can feel and you can actually see. As opposed to these theoretical dietary supplements or natural products that you can't really tell if they're working or not. So that's why I'm a fan of that. And you can see that with NAC supplements as well. Again, supporting glutathione, you can see your liver enzyme, GGT, change. So that's important. So good question there. Okay, glycine is cheap and I found NAC a little bit more expensive. Yeah, so glycine should be paired with NAC. I'll just put it like that. Good question though. Okay. Dennis Williamson says, David Sinclair talks about surging NAD rather than a daily dose. Wow. So sort of like pulsing this, I think that's probably a better idea. Periodically taking it at night, maybe after a night of drinking, for example, or if you travel or if you have some jet lag. I do think that's probably a good idea. I do like that. There's a question here, metformin lowers testosterone in women. Yes, metformin lowers testosterone in women, which is good if you have polycystic ovarian syndrome. Right? Remember, in the context of PCOS, the androgens are driving the cysts forming on the follicles. And so we want lower testosterone in women who are insulin resistant. Metformin is not going to lower testosterone in men, healthy, metabolically healthy men. So good question there. Okay, again, are you guys enjoying this content? Hit that like button. Just let me know if you're here live, if you're enjoying the content. What I'm going to do is just take a screenshot because I want to share this over on my Instagram a little bit later. And what else do we have here, friends, in terms of questions? I really do quite like all of your questions. Okay, a woman says, I eat grapes for my resveratrol. Probably a good idea, periodically. Okay, what do you think about MCT and C8 oil? My mom is interested in that for its cognitive benefits. I think it probably is a good idea for people who have dementia or a history of Alzheimer's or an ApoE4 allele, supporting ketosis that way. I think that's a good idea. Do I take that? Sometimes, not all the time. In coffee periodically, I think that is warranted. So yeah, good point there. Again, just a small plug, another way to increase ketones, berberine. That's how I got really fascinated by this in 2015. I've been following the berberine science since 2011 quite extensively. So that is a great way to support nutritional ketosis. So friends, was this helpful? I just want to give you a quick breakdown. Again, my family member reached out to me and said, hey, what do I think of NR and NMN? This was my response. I think there might be some validity here. There was this recently published study that showed that after 150 milligrams of NMN supplements, there was some improvement in insulin sensitivity at the level of the skeletal muscle. But I think for the cost, there's other tools that you can use. So if you found this helpful, I would be so appreciative if you could hit this like button, share this with a friend or family member. Tomorrow morning, we have a great update for you all about cancer and other metabolic health related aspects. And we will catch you next Tuesday. Let me know in the comments what topics might be of interest to you. I'm always open to curating the content based upon what is of interest to you. But again, I appreciate you all being here. Appreciate that like button and the share, and we will catch you on a future one down the road. Have a great evening. Bye now.